Let's go next to Tristan from Kansas City, Missouri. Tristan, you're on the air.
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So I actually climbed up the pipeline to deconvert myself from a stage of conspiracism.
Mm,
So in 2016, I was basically QAnon before QAnon was a big thing. I fell
really?
into the
Like,
whole
what were your
Pizzagate thing.
beliefs?
Well, I found some YouTube conspiracy theorists that basically said that Obama was going to declare martial law and all that crap.
Yeah.
And he was going to lock all the Christians in FEMA camps. And they showed all this quote unquote evidence that, that pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. I found that before it was even like popular.
Now, let me ask you this. This
So,
is super interesting. Let's take one of those, which is Obama will lock up Christians in FEMA camps. When you fell for that, did you actually go through in your head, like, okay, what would be the authority that comes up to do the locking up? How would they identify who is Christian? Like, did you think in that level of detail?
well, there was a big theory that the whole world was behind it. It was like a secret cabal, and they have everybody's information, so they
Yeah.
know based on your internet history if you're like a Christian. So they would come and they would take away all the people who qualify under a specific criteria,
Right.
and it's a real mess. My whole reason for coming on here is to tell you that there are more people like that than you think. You go to find a radical leftist, it's really hard to find. You could probably find some at some college campuses, but I swear to God, these people, these crazy QAnon people, they exist at every single dollar store you go to in the
Right.
Midwest.
Right.
And I want to know, David, if you how you handle all of this, how you handle all of this insanity. Like, does it keep you up at night? Are you like nervous for our future? Because the further we get into this and the further we get into seeing our climate getting destroyed and
Yep.
seeing all of this misinformation come, does it ever scare you for the future knowing that more and more people are losing their minds
Well,
because it's
listen, the
collective
only
insanity?
if you're paying attention and you're not scared, then you're not understanding, right? But I do think that applying Stoic philosophy is relevant. Understand the limits of what you can control. I can work to inform people about what's going on with the climate, but ultimately I can't control the outcome of whether we deal with climate. So I really do try to remind myself that there's not much use in worrying about things that are beyond my control. I can certainly do my best to inform, and I can control that. But ultimately, a lot of these issues are bigger than any one person. And so I think it's important to bear that in mind. I take weekends off from the news and from politics, and I think that scheduled breaks are also good. But yeah, if you're paying attention, you understand what's going on, of course you would be worried.
Okay. Thank you, David. That pretty much it. I just wanted to know, what was going on behind the scenes with
Now, Tristan,
Travis
what
Sanders.
happened that you stopped believing this crazy conspiracy stuff? What got you out of it?
Well, well, it's funny. Most people talk about the alt-right pipeline, how
Yeah.
people, climb down this rabbit hole to, find crazy ideologies. For me, it was conspiratism, and then I found an episode of Joe Rogan talking to Alex Jones, and that actually introduced me to Joe Rogan. I started watching him, and then he had on a few progressives. I watched T.J. Kirk, the Amazing Atheist, and he like debunked a lot of these conspiracy theories. And then
Mm.
from there, I found secular talk, and now I'm listening to you and Vosh and people who would be considered more on the far left end. But I'm very skeptical with that too. I try not to fall down any more rabbit holes of fringe ideologies. I try to keep it pretty neutral most of the time.
Well, it seems like you have a framework now where anything you hear, you will then evaluate for yourself and research further rather than taking anyone's word for anything, which seems
Oh, of
good.
course,
Yeah.
of course. I've learned my lessons from that.
Tristan, congratulations.
Thank you, David.
All
I
right. There
appreciate
we
it.
go. Very, very important stuff. Extremely important stuff.